Hey guys, so today we're going to be looking at more gut feeling stories. Yeah, let's just get right into the video. When I was in college, I went to a restaurant with my family. This was during spring break. We were on vacation at Smoky Mountains in TN and had just stopped to eat dinner. Shortly after we were seated, I noticed a guy sitting by the front, where the waiters had a table with menus, and I had a bad gut feeling about this guy. He was facing us and I noticed him glancing at us every now and then. A while later, I noticed a waiter bringing him a box of food, but he stayed and just sat there, expressionless, and looking at us sometimes. Anyway, I decided to keep an eye on him. The service was really slow and we ended up staying for about 2 hours. It was odd that this guy also stayed because he got his food much earlier. Finally, we left the restaurant, and as we walked to the door, he got up and exited too. Then I noticed him getting into the car right next to ours. He was driving a large SUV or truck with tinted windows, and he started following us. I told my father, who was driving, and he made several U-turns to be sure. Yep, this guy was following us. So my father turned onto a busy road, and after a few turns, we lost the guy. It was very strange and scary. I have no idea why he'd want to follow us, but my gut feeling alerted me and maybe we got out of a bad situation. What, did the guy just want to rob them or something and follow them home and then rob them? Because maybe he heard them talk about something? He was like, these people are rich. I would definitely have a bad gut feeling too if someone got their food and they just weren't eating and they were just expressionless. Something off with you. How do you get your food and you're not happy? Drove some friends to a party. I get a bad feeling about getting out of the car when we park. Tell everybody to stay put for a second. A couple minutes later, a cop car pulls up to the house and busts everybody for underage drinking. We drove away without anyone noticing. Wow, this person saved all their friends from getting arrested. How good. How do they know? They were the one who snitched. Was hiking by myself, real smart. I get this feeling that something wasn't right, but I normally act on that feeling. That day, however, I ignored it. Went to a lookout, turned around and headed back. About the same place as I got the feeling, I noticed cougar tracks across mine in the snow. They followed mine for a few meters and then went to a bit of shrub that overlooked both where I was now and the lookout. I immediately left and avoided going anywhere near something that would give a cougar cover. Occasionally behind me, I would notice a small rustle in the bushes and trees or some snow falling off a disturbed branch. Yep, they were being hunted by a cougar. Can you imagine? You're just chilling and walking, hiking, and then you look behind you and there's freaking cougar tracks, bear tracks. I used to sleep with a large heavy mirror on the wall above my bed. It weighed 50 to 60 pounds. One night I had the urge to take it down, fearing it would follow me and shatter. As soon as I took it off the wall, the two mason anchor holders crumbled and fell to the floor. Oh, well, good thing they took it off, but seriously, that is a dumb idea. Having something heavy above your head while you're sleeping. Yo, you got a death wish or something. Huh? Why would you do that to yourself? Why? If you want to put anything above your bed, make sure it's light, not a freaking 60-pound mirror. At that point, they were just waiting for a concussion. I work in a mental health hospital. There's a set of communal stairs, a lift, and some locked staff stairs. I was working on the top floor that night and my gut told me to use the locked stairs. More of an inconvenience than the lift. Went through the last door and found the patient who lived closest to that door hanging in their room. They were only about there for 1 to 2 minutes, so I managed to call for help and get them down. Oh, that's sad. I mean, good thing that they were saved, but they probably didn't even want to be saved. It's just sad both ways, right? But I do hope that because they were saved, they look at life a bit differently. I tell this story a lot. An old friend and I used to cut through a construction site a lot to get to the lake with skip rocks on. We did it weekly for 1.5 years. One day, I just felt an intense urge to go the other way. I said we should just go the long way. He asked why. I didn't really have a reason. I just felt uncomfortable. So long story short, he called me a pussy and we walked up on a family of bears. I will not be friends with that person ever again. You almost got us killed. It's either that or that friend must listen to me forever. Whatever I say, they have to say okay now because they almost got me killed. I was clubbing and felt something was wrong. I realized one of my friends was missing. I looked in the club and then outside and saw her barefoot in the car park with glass on her feet being dragged off by a stranger to his car. I started screaming and making a scene for people to realize what was happening. The guy drove off and I spent 4 hours with my friend in hospital getting a broken bottle out of her feet. Oh my goodness. Yeah, this person saved their friend's life. If there were any arguments, remember that time when I saved your life? Remember? When I was 13, I went to a sleepover with a classmate and a former classmate who moved away to a different town a couple of years before New Year's Eve. We were all close friends. It was sort of a reunion. Her parents, mum and stepdad, had a camper and trailer for us girls to sleep in, while they slept in the house. Once me and my friend get to our other friend's place, the one that moved away, we find out her mum is enjoying us tonight, and that is just us three, 13-year-old girls and her creepy stepdad. He asked us if we wanted drugs, brought back pot for our friend to smoke, and gave us beer and coolers. He was friends with the neighbor next door and went to visit him for a while, but I was freaked out. I didn't know why the mum didn't come to the sleepover too, or why my friend's dad just kept giving us alcohol. I didn't drink that night, nor did I sleep. I remember asking my friends the silliest questions to make them laugh and keep them awake with me so they didn't fall asleep, and being really careful around her stepdad, who always seemed to give her stepdaughter hugs or tickle her when he returned. I remember I called my dad at like 4 in the morning to come pick me up. I couldn't deal with it and had an awful stomach ache from stressing out. Something wasn't right. Without hesitation, he picked me up and we went back home. I found out years later that my friend was repeatedly molested and sexually abused by her stepdad, stepbrother, and other men in her life. I feel terrible looking back on it now and how I didn't see the signs. I remember telling my parents that her mum hadn't shown up and they were upset too, but I feel so bad for my friend. Haven't heard from her in ages. Last I heard she got into drugs and moved across the country. I hope she's doing alright. She deserved better. This is so messed up. Why did the mum not protect her kid? Like, what? Like, she just left her kid with these trashy people, these trashy men, and the fact that she's probably into drugs now because her stepdad kept giving her drugs. Yeah, I feel so bad too, because imagine if she had like a better family. Her life would have went so well. I do blame the mum too, because what? How do you let your kid go through that? You basically brought a creep into the household who literally abused your kid and you did nothing. Yeah, the mum should go to prison too. Jeez. I was visiting my ancestral place in India. We were just about done with the visit and caught some auto rickshaws, or tuk-tuks as some people know them, because they were the only things available there. We get our baggage and get loaded up. It's about 9 p.m, which for that place is basically ghost town time. As we ride out, we pass rice fields illuminated only by the glowing moon. I feel like we're being watched by something not quite human. I tell the driver to drive faster. Note that rickshaws are open on both sides. They don't have doors. As soon as we take 2 steep turns, we hear a growl. Turning back, we see an honest-to-God tiger standing there. A tiger! Oh my gosh. Even if the tiger doesn't get me, I'd be gone, man. I'd be gone by fear. If we had been a second late, which we would have been if I hadn't told them to drive faster, the tiger would have knocked us onto the rice fields and who knows what would have happened. Yeah, they literally would have been dead meat. They literally would have been the tiger's meal. That's crazy. The fact that they just felt that they were being watched, right? They're like, something's watching us, but it's not a human. Something is watching us. That's scary. A freaking tiger. So when I was about 8 to 9 years old, I was coming from school later than usual, and right before I came to my house, I decided to go to a nearby store instead to buy a new package of pencils. Returning from the store, walking in the courtyard, I saw from afar 2 people coming out of the house I live in, and they did not look friendly at all. As you probably guessed it, our house was robbed, and sadly, I couldn't remember the intruders' faces. To this day, I wonder what would have happened if I decided not to buy those pencils. They would have been kidnapped and sold somewhere. So thank goodness they went to buy pencils. Okay, kids? Go buy your pencils. My fiance worked with this guy who had this weird crush on him. He always called him randomly to hang out, which wasn't a problem, but he just made me uncomfortable. If we ran into him at the store, he'd tag along and completely ignore me. He'd give me dirty looks and I would tell my fiance I didn't like him. He once called him 10 times one day when we had a date night. Well, eventually he left us alone and we hadn't heard from him for a good 4 months. We saw in the news the other day that he was arrested for stabbing a guy 12 times over some disagreement. What the frick? Well, good that he left them alone. Some people are actually just, crazy. I was with 2 friends of mine going on a drive to a Magic the Gathering tournament, and it was raining to all hell. The friend that was driving is a reckless driver, but in this case, he took precautions and slowed down to a safe 60 miles per hour on the expressway. So we are driving down the expressway, me sitting behind the passenger seat. When I realize I'm not wearing my seatbelt, I clip it in and make the joke, good thing I put my seatbelt on before we hide. Then we spun out and ended up totaling his car. Messed up my hip and back, and my bag nearly gave me a concussion when it hit me upside the head. Good thing I just put my seatbelt on. Boom. Excuse me? But it is a good thing that he put his seatbelt on because that probably did save his life. Jeez. Well, that's it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Tell me in the comments down below what your thoughts are. And as always, thanks for watching. Hope you guys liked it. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.